All right, everybody, welcome back to the Just a Bit Inside podcast. Joining us on the show today, we have Michelle Thompson, who reached out to us to talk a topic which I didn't even think we'd cover on the podcast for you guys, but I'm so excited to talk about it. We're talking cornhole today with Michelle Thompson. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Always fun to talk about cornhole.
Yeah, so definitely, like I said, not a topic I was expecting to cover on the podcast, but I started to dive into the world a little bit once you reached out to me, and it's definitely a fascinating one. My algorithm for Twitter is all messed up now because I'm getting cornhole videos just thrown into my timeline now,
Yes,
which is pretty cool. So I'm sure you're proud of that to be spreading the awareness.
absolutely. That's what we're here for.
All right, so Michelle, let's kind of get the introductions out of the way. So you're obviously a commentator and a sideline reporter for ACL, the American Cornhole League. You're also doing a little bit of writing for them, and you host a show around the ACL. So, kind of, how did you get into the world of cornhole?
Well, I started playing, I probably like everyone else, just in your backyard, didn't know there was a whole league and all that stuff happening at the same time, just throwing bags at barbecues. And I ended up going to a local league here and just got completely addicted to the sport and then dove headfirst into the world of professional cornhole. Not that I wanted to be professional, but I was interested in watching it now. And I actually started a company called Girls Throw 2 with another person. And that's kind of when we really showed up in the scene. I since left that company and just am focusing on the ACL, and I do a lot of work with cornhole players and the mental side of the game. But other than that, yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
Now, did you have a background in like journalism or anything like that, or was it all just brand new to you once you kind of got introduced to the world?
I have a background in media because I've had another business for many years where I would get on stages and speak and host podcasts and do news segments and things like that. So I was very comfortable in front of a camera and in front of a microphone. But the whole cornhole or it's funny to do a sports thing because I didn't even play sports like my whole life. Like I came from like musical theater and guitar and voice, and so it's just a very odd place that I ended up, but I'm loving it.
Yeah, so how's kind of that switch, kind of getting to know the kind of the terminology of sports and being that sideline reporter and knowing like the questions to ask to get those best answers out of these athletes.
It's been easy because I commentated all last season and a little about half of the season before that too. So when you're watching that many games, it just becomes natural to learn the sport. Also the show around the ACL as I'm preparing for that show and when I'm doing the writing, the write ups from the events. So it just kind of happens when you watch a lot of cornhole that you become pretty well versed in what's happening.
Gotcha. So now I kind of want to get into some of kind of the basics of cornhole, just because myself, the audience, probably not too familiar other than what we do in the backyard. So now, kind of, what's the strategy beyond like just trying to throw the bag in the hole?
That's where everyone starts, right? You're just, can I
Yep.
get this bag on the board even, right? And
Yeah.
then you move towards, can I get the bag in the hole? Once you get that down, then you're going to start to decide if you want to be someone who plays a more offensive game or you're just trying to get as many bags in the hole as you can and outscore your opponent. Or if you're going to play a more defensive game, which is putting up blocks and things to throw your opponent off so that they then have to do things that maybe won't work and you can grab points that way.
Yeah, because I sort of think of it kind of like curling, where I kind of got fascinated with that sport a couple, Olympics ago, where it became big, where you're shooting your rocks into the house, but then you also have that defensive mindset where you want to place your shots strategically to kind of deny those access and those good looks at getting the good shot.
Exactly. So we call it like the dirty style game are the players that are throwing a stickier bag and they're trying to get in the way. They're trying to put up blocks and they're going to clean up the blocks that they put up. And then you have the more, clean style game, which is they want a clean board all the time. So if you do put up block, they're most likely going to go through it to get the lane back to being clear. It's kind of a two different styles. And there's a lot of controversy on our side of like what you like to watch, what we think people like to watch, because we like to watch the dirty style game because it's more fun, it's strategic. You see all these cool, you see rolls, you see cuts, you see air mails, you see all these cool things happening. But then other people like to just see someone throw 50 bags in a row in the hole.
Now that was another thing I was going to get into is you're throwing these words around like sticky bag, airmail. What are these things mean? What are these cool terms you're throwing around? Like, because I was thinking, I'm sure there's got to be stuff because you make three strikes in a row in bowling, it's called a turkey. So I'm sure there's got to be some terminology in cornhole that's pretty cool. So what are some of the terms you like, and maybe tell us what some of them are that we might see when we're watching a broadcast?
Totally. So there's a lot of cool terms, and these players are still inventing shots to date. So it's fun to see these names come up. But an airmail is going to be when you go like in the hole, like a swish, right? So it doesn't touch the board first.
Okay.
And that's a common shot that a lot of people have, even if they do just play like a down the center kind of game. Um, or a clean style game. We have a roll, which is just like it sounds. There's a bag in front of the hole, and you're going to roll over that into the hole.
Okay.
We have cuts, which is when you're going to cut right, like the bag hits the board and cuts around the bag and goes in the hole. We have a newer shot, like in the last couple of years, is a bar soap. That's kind of a fun one. So that's when your opponent's bag is in front of the hole, and you hit it so hard that you push their bag over the hole and you go
Wow.
in.
That's cool.
That's pretty impressive to watch. We also have one called a penguin, which is when you land on top and ride your bag in. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things. There was one just a couple weeks ago that one of our players did. It's the first time we've seen it. He had like a sliver of the hole open, like in the right section where you would never think a bag could even fit.
Mm-hmm.
And he rolled and slid into it. So we call it the coin slot.
I was literally going to say call it
That's
the
a
coin
new
slot.
shot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew
All
something
kinds of
like
cool
that would
things.
happen. Yeah. What's maybe your favorite slang term for throwing a bag?
Well, I won't say it's my favorite for the reason you might think, but I'm kind of notorious for throwing the bag really hard and going off the back, and so the whole industry started calling it meeshing it. Because I'm
Okay.
meesh, they're like, "Oh, you meeshed it." It means it went off the board, and so that's been like a term that
It can't be a bad
people
thing if
started
they're
using, unfortunately.
yeah, if they're embracing it, it's become terminology. You can't, you're laying your mark in the game early, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's where you want to lay it, but it's there.
Now, what would you say is maybe the rarest shot in cornhole?
The rarest? Is that what
Yeah,
you
like something you don't see, like a 7-10 split. If I bring it back to bowling,
said?
something you don't see on occasion, but it's like, wow, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, you're going to see some crazy pushes that, like a penguin or a bar soap, bar soap's becoming more common, but there's a certain player, his name's Eric Davis. He's one of the top players, and he does things that defy, as a commentator, you're looking at what's happening and you're like, all right, he's either going to do this or this. And then he does something that you couldn't even think of. And you're like, I don't even know how that happened.
Wow.
So there's like a lot of different pushes that, players are pushing 2-3 bags, or grabbing 2-3 bags on the way to the hole, in the hole, things like that are pretty miraculous to see.
Now, yeah, I definitely want to get into some players to watch things like that, but let's kind of wrap up last year. Of course, I think cornhole blew up on the scene a week or two ago when we kind of had the controversy coming in the championship match. Kind of give the basics. If you want to give it a little bit more detail, feel free, Michelle. So I believe from what I read is that, the two teams were facing off in the championship match. One team challenged the other team's bags and questioned whether they were regulation size. They measured them. They were under regulation size. And then while they were doing that test, they also tested the team that had challenged them, and they were also under regulation size. So it determined that both teams were playing with irregular bags. So that was just an interesting controversy you see to put cornhole kind of on the main scene. Can you maybe a little elaborate on that? And do you think that's maybe like a common occurrence in the sport?
That was the craziest story ever for us in the industry, because I was there. I was commentating a couple courts over. It was not quite reported accurately. It was really a non-issue. The only controversy was that someone questioned someone's bag. After that was questioned, it was all fine, and they moved on and played their game, and the bags are all, were fine. But so I'm not really sure why the news grabbed it and ran with it. Like, we're all kind of confused.
Yeah.
we're like, how did this happen? But not quite the controversy they said it was, except for the fact that someone questioned a bag. That would be the only controversy, I guess.
Yeah, is that not gentlemanly? If you say is it not like a common thing you do? Is you question another team's bags, so you just kind of just let it play?
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing. I guess I honestly don't know why they questioned it. Maybe they just thought it looked like a little floppy because, bags get used a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I could think of. But no, I mean, I've never seen it happen in the time that I've been in the sport. So I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing to do, but it was just surprising, I guess. But it was all fine. And they went on and moved and played their game, and the bags were fine. And Yeah,
Yeah,
not
it
really
seemed
sure
like
why
they
it caught
treated it like
fire.
it was, yeah, they treated it like it was a non-issue. It seemed like from the aftermath and everything that's gone on. So it seems like
Yeah,
it was more the media and, like you said, just kind of hyping it up a little bit.
for sure.
And then
It did.
kind of now just to go into it now, does each player have their own bags? Do teams have bags, or is the league have like bags that they disseminate to the teams that they can then control, sort of like the NFL?
Yeah, so the bags are purchased by the players, but you can only purchase ACL stamped bags. And those companies have to go through a rigorous process to be approved on that list.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just figured I want to kind of go into the inside there just a little bit more, just knowledge for the fans, because I was wondering, if like guys just have their own bags, they can kind of treat it sort of like NFL football players can, or the quarterbacks can kind of doctor the balls, or if there's kind of like
Right.
brand new ones every match, or how it goes. So now another kind of news came out for the ACLs. They announced their teams for 2023. We got, I'm going to put up the graphics here again, big production. So we got the Arizona Burn, the California Slingers, Ohio Aviators, the Colorado Timber, the Georgia Sliders, the Florida Freeze, the Chicagoland Spinners, the Kentucky Colonels, and then on the other side we got the Las Vegas Rollers, the Carolina Coasters, repping in my neck of the woods, the New England Woodchucks, which we'll talk about, the
Nice.
Michigan Marauders, the Virginia Cutters, the Texas Bully Baggers, love the name, the Pennsylvania Ringers, and the Missouri Mays. One thing I love about the teams is I love the color schemes. They're great.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, a lot
I'm
of them
so
are like
excited.
representing the team. Like California's got the gold and like sort of the UCLA colors. Loving them there. So, kind of, who are the favorites for 2023 out of these teams now?
Oh man, looking at that list, they tried to keep it as regionally, like the three players you saw in those photos. They tried to make it so that those players were actually from those locations, but so for the most part they are. But there are some like Las Vegas. We don't really have any players there,
Hmm.
so we had to pull some from other regions. But some stacked teams is going to be that Carolina Coasters. We have um, two top 10 players on that team. So that's going to be a favorite for sure. And the nice thing is that the way the draft is going to work is the players that have like the lowest rankings, I guess, they tried to make it as even as possible, but
Hmm.
the draft is going to go in the order of whoever had the lowest total ranking is going to give you draft first. So they have first pick to kind of create that more even team. But the Coasters are going to be really good. The Michigan Marauders, definitely one to look out for, and the Kentucky Colonels. Those all have some top players in the top 20, at least a couple from that elite level.
Okay, so are they still conducting a draft following these team announcements, or were those three players like the team?
So there's a team captain, which you saw in the middle,
Okay.
and then those are kind of like the co-captains, and there's a manager. The draft is going to take place in Myrtle Beach on New Year's Day. I'll be there with Jeff McCarriger and Bernie Neighbors will be hosting it. And then we'll have our analysts and our producers there, and we'll be drafting the teams live. There'll be 16 players per team.
Awesome.
So it'll be super fun.
Cool, cool. Is this have they done the drafts before? Is this like kind of an inaugural event?
We did a draft last season. Teams were a little bit different. We didn't have them regionally. It was just random players. We basically took the top 16, made them captains, and they could draft from anywhere. And what we found was that, we really wanted to make this easy for people to jump in and start watching. And so we wanted to make it so that the teams were actually regional. So that you could say, hey, like you said, I'm going to go for the Woodchucks because I'm in this New England area. And that's what we wanted to create this season. And last season we didn't have it that way. And then we had the one captain, which it was a lot of work for that one captain. So we added the co-captains and a manager so that they have like a little team to put together to work on those drafts and the lineups and everything each time.
Okay. Now, kind of getting into that, what can you tell me about the Woodchucks? Because first of all, I sent this to my friends in like my group chat and everything, and I can't say his last name. Jacob here in the middle is
Krasinski.
exactly how I looked in high school. He is a replica of what I tried to get pictures of me in high school, but this is what I was in high school for all the fans at home.
That's amazing.
And
Yeah,
then
Jacob's so
yes,
good.
and also I'm wondering why they weren't called the Woodchuckers. You know, that was just another
That I
thought I
couldn't
had.
tell you. I don't know. We had a team called the Woodchucks last season, and they wanted to keep that name. I don't know why it's Woodchucks, not Woodchuckers.
Mhm.
But Jacob Trzynski is an incredible player. So is Jimmy Humans and Storm Hogue. It's going to be a good team for sure. Jacob Trzynski came out on the scene last season. We didn't. I mean, I was not familiar with him, and he became a top player really quickly. And Jimmy Humans has been around for a few seasons, and they're both really really good. And Storm Hogue is as well. So you got a good team there so far.
Nice, nice. Yeah, if you guys want to send me some swag, I'm more than happy to rep it on the show here.
Yeah, I gotta
Just
tell
a little plug,
ACL I want some
little
swag
self
too.
promotion.
I'm like I'm repping that Cali Slingers hard.
There we go. So now, what about the dark horse team? So you talked kind of about the top teams that you expect with those top players. Who's maybe like an under the radar team you could see maybe has some rising
Mm.
stars on the team, or maybe some veterans that could lead them to the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, the Kentucky Colonels, and the reason why it's hard to say that they're a dark horse because Matt Guy is one of the top players, in the world. But I think sometimes we forget about the other two players beside him. So I think that's one to look out for. I forgot to mention the Chicagoland Spinners. That has a top doubles team. They were actually first last season, and they're on the same team somehow. So I mean, that's a team that is going to be pretty deadly. But I will give a shout out to my Cali Slingers because Corey Gilbert and Nick Williams are here from locally from Northern California, and they're both really, really good. And then it's led by Tony Smith. Tony Smith is a top 10 player, really, really phenomenal player. So I'd say watch out for those Cali Slingers. I think that they've got a good chance as well.
Yeah. So one thing I saw too is can you gamble on cornhole now?
You sure can.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. Well, Connecticut is where I'm at, and you can gamble. So we've thrown see how the Woodchucks are looking there for a team future to win the title at the beginning of the year. We'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
you can gamble on singles and doubles as well, just so you
oh,
know.
there we go for the fans at home. Now, so who are some of the top players in the league? Who is the maybe top player in the league, and what makes that player so special?
So Mark Richards finished. He got 7 titles in his rookie season, which was
Wow.
last season. So he took first overall in singles, first in doubles with his partner Philip Lopez Jr. He got MVP, Rookie of the Year. So he was just, coming into the season, we didn't know who he was, and that's pretty rare. Like there's a lot of rookies we have our eyes on, like coming into the season,
Mhm.
and he was not one of them. So he really broke out, and we're like, who is this guy? And then he just went on to win everything. I mean, and not only is he such a talented player, but he's an incredible person. He's a PE teacher and teaches health, I believe, at the middle school, I want to say, level. And he's just the sweetest guy. He's got a really good mental game, which I think is what's helped him a lot, aside from just his, great, great mechanical ability out there on the boards, but just so likable, such a great person to rep the sport and the brand. And I think it's going to be really fun to watch him this season to see if he can keep up what he did last season, which was remarkable.
All right. Well, so he's definitely a player we'll keep our eyes on. Then you also talked about Eric Davis. He's a pretty good player for in the ACL as well, right?
Yeah, Eric Davis is I guess I'm not supposed to have favorites, but he's my favorite. Everyone knows he's my favorite player.
Mm-hmm. You can give
He
him some love. You can give
is
him some love right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's just the risk taker. That's why I love him. He's gonna do crazy stuff you've never seen before. He's gonna take risks as opposed. He's not a conservative player. He's not gonna just lay up on the board or just slide the bag in the hole. He's gonna make stuff happen. He's gonna make his opponents have to make stuff happen, and he makes up shots. So I I love watching him. There's other like Tony Smith's that way, Noah Wooten's that way. Those are some other dirty style players that are making incredible things happen that you haven't seen before. So I appreciate their game a lot.
Okay. And then one thing I thought interesting too is with a lot of these sports like cornhole, now pickleball, those kind of niche sports, you have the pro am circuit, you have celebrities getting in the mix. I saw Jay Cutler's been throwing some bags. Who are some celebrities that are good at cornhole that may have surprised you? Or
Yeah,
that
so Jay Cutler was actually pretty good. I was there for that Celebrity Super Bowl match. And so was Ben Rector. He's a singer. He did really good. And I'm totally blanking on the basketball female that won. Mike the Situation. He was pretty good.
Sitch, huh?
Yeah, he did good.
Maybe
And the
tossing
whole
some
Jersey Shore
beanbags in
cast
jail.
was there
Wow.
supporting him. Yeah. And then of course some of our biggest I guess supporters in the celebrity world is Shamar Moore and David Lim. They're the ones that hosted the Airmail City, one of our final championships at Shamar Moore's home. he created a court in his backyard to broadcast that event. And they're both great players. They are obsessed with cornhole, and they're great at spreading the word about the sport.
Yes. One thing I love about cornhole too is like at least I haven't gotten them yet, but I want to get cornhole boards, but I want to get like cool designs. I know like one of my friends had like an A's one and a Raiders one. For a while there I wanted to do like a Game of Thrones theme and do like a Lannisters and a Targaryen or something like that. Have you seen any like cool set designs like that piqued your interest?
I mean, you would have to go to like either get the like decals or go to someone that's not like in the professional world, because obviously there's a copyright issue there.
Yeah.
Like, so like I could get custom boards ordered. I have a wholesale account with a board maker,
Nice.
but he's not going to touch something, a brand that already exists.
Ah,
So
okay.
you got to get a little creative with it. But
Hmm.
I'm sure I know you could buy like decals and things to put over your boards that you can get pretty fancy, but I've just seen really cool designs with what they've done with because I run a league here in town,
Hmm.
and so we get sponsors, and so we'll just give them logos and they'll create some really cool looking boards with the logos. And a lot of the cornhole brands like BG is a bag brand, and they have the best designs. Like if you want really cool looking bags, that's going to be where you want to go to, and they make really cool boards as well.
Okay, cool. What's your pup's name? Hanging out in the
That's
background.
Sunshine.
What a cute pup. I think I saw him on your Twitter feed. Also, welcome back to Twitter. I saw you decided to come back
Yeah,
to Twitter
took a hiatus
randomly
for a
a
while
couple
there.
couple months ago. You're like, yeah, I'll just jump back into this thing that's Twitter, and you picked a great time to come back.
I know. I know. Isn't that kind of a weird timing? I mean, I never could have predicted that Twitter was going to go where it's going, but I noticed a lot of my colleagues are on there. I host Around the ACL with Trey Ryder and Anthony Ione. They're both big on Twitter. So I was like, I guess I should probably hop on here.
Yeah, there you go. It's definitely good for the promotion game. So kind of my last question for you, Michelle. One thing that I was interested in is where are all these matches played?
All over. So we have it's kind of like a tour, I guess. So we travel all over. We have all regions covered. We go to Myrtle Beach. That's the first one I'll be traveling to for this season. Right now, or this coming weekend, we have one in Upland, California, an open, and then we had one in Kentucky, but like literally everywhere. So if you want to follow the American Cornhole League or go to iplaycornhole.com, you can click schedule. It's not all scheduled out yet because they're still finalizing the final venues. But if you find one close to you, I highly recommend go to these events where they're filming the professional broadcasts. It is so much fun, and it is so cool to see these elite players right in front of you. You'll see me out there on the court, and it's a really cool thing to experience. And the more fans we can get out there, the more fun it is, because right now it's kind of like golf in the sense that it's kind of quiet when the
Hmm.
players are playing. Like it's and we all players, commentators, all of us, we want it to go to where it's louder and more fun, and kind of more like like an NBA or NFL feel.
Well, have you seen kind of how darts is blown up? Like those live dart events are like nuts because most of it's like European based, so you have like kind of this just European drunken vibe sort of to it, but it's like
Yes.
chanting and all this kind of stuff. So I'm down. I'll check out the schedule, see where our New England Woodchucks, my New England Woodchucks, are based. Maybe get out there, catch a game for the pod. Definitely spread some awareness. So Michelle, let's wrap things up. Why don't you get all the plugs out? Tell people where they can catch you, where they can catch all the cornhole action.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at Cornhole Mish. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those different places, YouTube. So you can follow me there, and I'll be, going along my journey. I will be traveling to, I mean, geez, almost 20 events this season. So I'll be going all over the place, talking about cornhole. And then for the ACL, you can follow them at the American Cornhole League and all their different channels. And then iplaycornhole.com. And if you're looking to get into cornhole further, if you go to the ACL app, and you find the local places to play near you, those not like the regionals and the big events, because that's might not probably not the best place to start, but just the local leagues, like we run our local league here, and then you're going to get really hooked because it is so much fun.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's fun to do during the summertime, but having you now on the pod, I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna go check, see if I can get to an event for sure. I want to definitely spread the word of cornhole because I think it can definitely be, that fun, entertaining sport for sure. So
Yeah,
again,
for
Michelle,
sure.
thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And maybe after the draft, as the season starts, we'll catch up again and just reinvigorate this audience in the cornhole action.
I'd love to. Sounds great.
All right, sounds good, Michelle. Thank you so much.
No problem.